this cluster with us. This is a master node for Kubernetes, which consists of one master and two worker nodes. And we are using version 1.818.3 for Kubernetes, that is KubeADM, kubectl, and kubelet, all of them. So what we're going to do is, this is the agenda. We will be creating a namespace, demo namespace, and in the namespace we will create a deployment. We will be using the imperative way to create a YAML file out of it. And once we have created this, we will be applying this YAML file, and we will be changing the replica sets, and then before applying the YAML file. Post that, we will be exposing the service to the cluster IP and the node port type. We will be seeing both of them, how we do it, and what's the way to do it. So let's get started. Let's create a namespace. So it creates a demo namespace, and then we will be creating a deployment. So I am using K because I have used a particular type of commands for it. You can refer to the kubernetes.io cheat sheet, where you will find there you have to do the auto completion, and you need to create a shortcut, or you can say a short form for kubectl, and create an ATS for the same. So let's see the command. So here we will be using a dry run for creating a deployment. Okay, create deployment, then we will give the deployment name, then we will use the image, we will use nginx, and we will restart equal to always, which means the pod is always in the running mode. It gets restarted, recreated in case of failure, so it runs basically. And then we will be using dry run. So this is basically the command. Here you can use dry run client or server, and then we will use YAML output to a particular file. In this, say demo deploy.yaml. It will create a YAML file. So unknown flag, okay, this is used in the pod, not in here. So please remember, in version 1.18.3 you can only create pods using kubectl run command. So here we have got it. So what we're gonna do is, we will see this file. This has been created, you could see. So we will see here, and we will change the replica set. And we gonna change the restart policy. Always. You will save it. Then so it has created the deployment. So we will see the status of the deployment. So rollout has been successful. So if we check it, the pods, it's created. But I just want to show there are 3 replicas which have been created, but we don't want that. Okay. So what we will do is I will delete this deployment. So I will recreate it, and the purpose of recreating is that we have created a YAML file, right? So what we can do is I will create it into the demo namespace that we created. So here we have created. So what I'm doing is I'm using a kubectl-n is for namespace, then demo namespace, the name of the namespace. Then I will be creating the deployment in this namespace. You can do it either way. Either you specify it into the YAML file under the metadata, uh, or above that. So how to see it now? So if I go into the namespace, so you will see that in this namespace we have 3 pods which are running, and these are Nginx pods, and you can also see the deployment. And if we have to add some additional, we can specify the replica sets. So I think it's not working here, probably because of the cluster that I have. So anyways, so we have 3 pods and 1 deployment that we have. Let's come on to the second thing that we need to do. Now we would be exposing it. Okay, we would be exposing it to the cluster IP. By default, if you do not specify any port, it would be the cluster IP port and the type cluster IP which is being used as for the service. So we would use the imperative way, expose, which is kubectl expose. If you want to see the help, then you grep -a2. So it will just, it's a helpful command that will show you what is how you can use this particular command line, or this particular command, that is expose command. So the category that serves us would be for the deployment. So you can, let's see which one fits us, fits uh, for this particular deployment. So this is the one that you can use. So let's use it. Okay, expose deployment. I will specify the name of the deployment. It will not come up. So what I will do is I will go in here. I will use namespace, demo namespace, expose deployment. Now it will pick up the demo deployment. Then what it says, you have to identify the port. Okay, port equal to 80, and similarly the target port, which is actually onto the container, that is onto the pod, it's something, say 80. I will use 80 only, and let me take the port here for the service as, and I will use a dry run here. I will not, or I can use a type also. Type is equal to cluster IP, and I will give some name. So I will be giving a name here, say name equal to service cluster IP. So it creates a service. Okay, so if I have to see that, k-n demo get svc. So you could see that it has shown the cluster IP being used, and if I go in here and I take it as an endpoint, it will show 3 endpoints. So if you see, these are the 3 IPs of the pods which are running behind the deployment. So how do I need to check it? So I will use curl command and 10.96.156.189 : so it, you see, we have used the port and it hits the target port onto the pods at port 80, and it shows the web page. So that's working. So this is one way. So let's see the other way. So if you see in here, I will check the IPs of the nodes. So this is the IP of the node. Now if I have to expose a surface onto the node port, so that from the node the user hits the IP and it uh, goes to the target port of the service via service to the pods, any of the pods. So there I will use a different similar command that I use for expose, and this command that we use here, I will use node port, and the name I will give is node port service. It says so. Okay, so these are the services that you could use. So here I have to specify node port. Cap was missing, so it has exposed the service. So let's see the commands. So if you see, it will show you service. Other service will also be coming up, which is the node port service, the second one. Now what we can do is, it is also doing the same thing from port 8080. It's doing this. So I think we have made a mistake here. So I will just delete this. I didn't specify the node port, so I will delete this service. I will recreate it. svc -n. So what I will do is, the command that I run, I will use it as a dry run. Dry run equal to client -0 YAML to node svc dot YAML. So if you see here, everything looks good. So what we can do is I have to specify a node port here, okay, and the port number for the same. I will specify, see, I will specify 30099 as a port. I will save it. Now I will create this service, node P. Now it has created a service. So if I go in there now, so now we will see again. Anyways, I will again delete the service. So I didn't specify the namespace. So that's the best practice is to specify into the YAML file itself. So I will delete it. Oh, sorry, it's not in there. Okay, delete svc hyphen node. So what we're gonna do is I will if I go in here, either you can specify in here, you can specify namespace, demo and space. So it has created now. So if you see here, now you will see the service, and if you see the port column, so you will see the port 8080 is your the port, and your target port is 80 and your node port is 30099. So here in the same command, if I go on to the endpoint, you will see the endpoints of the ports for both of them. So let's now try to access it with the node IP 172.10.1.5. 5 and 6 are the worker nodes, or I can use 5. Port 30099. Let me specify the HTTP, the web page. So you could see that it's working fine. So that's what we covered today, right? How we access the service and what we created the namespace. Under the namespace, we used the imperative command to create the deployment. We created a YAML file, changed the replica sets from 1 to 3, and then we uh, exposed the service of type cluster IP and the node port service. So